And welcome to No Story Stagnates with me, Ernie Boxall. And today it is my pleasure to introduce Kate Hendry. And Kate, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do and where you are?
Yes, so I'm Kate. I am a graphic designer and illustrator, and I'm based in Cheshire, but I work remotely so I can help anyone, anywhere.
Wonderful. And what are you doing at the moment, Kate? How are you dealing with the lockdown?
Like I say, I'm remote working, so it's not massively hit
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone else's budgets have been a little bit hit, so client-wise,
Yeah.
probably not as many, but yeah, it's starting to pick up again.
Good. And can you tell them, you have a family?
I do. I've got a little boy.
So what's happening to the little boy at the moment?
Well, he's currently napping.
Right.
But yeah, he's 21 months.
Great.
So I am juggling a little bit. So I've got him at
Yeah.
home and my graphic design stuff, and I have a little sort of side business where I draw wildlife as well.
Wonderful.
So yeah, it's kind of just trying to balance.
Yeah. We'll talk about that coming up. So, Kate, the first question that I ask all of my guests: how did your mother and father meet?
So I text my mum because I'll be honest, I didn't know.
Right.
I wasn't expecting the response I got. So they met at work. So my mum worked in a department as an IT person. My dad was the head of that department, and that's where they met.
Right.
He invited her to a party at his friend's house, and he needed to go and get some keys from his pocket upstairs in some bedroom. So there they were upstairs in some bedroom, and apparently someone was, this is the exact words my mum used, was busy in the bedroom behind them.
Yeah.
And apparently they were so deep in conversation that they didn't notice, and
Right.
everyone made a big joke of it.
Yeah, wonderful. Your mum and dad didn't get busy that night themselves then?
I sincerely hope not. I don't want to think about that, thanks, Ernie.
So you know now how your story started from before you were born.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll tell your son how you and his father met?
Yeah.
And so he will know.
Yeah,
how
he
his
will know.
story. Yeah, hopefully. I'm passionate about that now, having learned how mine met. So, story from 1 to 10 that you feel has made a real impact on you.
So I've got a funny one.
Right.
So I went on holiday, I must have been about 7 or 8. Spain or somewhere Mediterranean, I think it was. I'm guessing Spain. So it was just myself and my grandparents. And my nan, as you do in the nice hot weather, was drying her knickers on the balcony, just laid out across. And she's not a small lady,
No.
as you can say. So they were a sizable pair of pants, or 10. You've got to maximise that space in the sun, haven't you?
Yeah.
And good old gust of wind comes along, and we were right over the pool. And it was a lovely little hotel. I remember it vividly, all lined with trees, olive trees, I think they were. And as the wind took the knickers, they sort of decorated each tree lining the pool. So yeah, I seem to remember as well, the way we resolved the situation was a barman with a broom and some sort of fashioned wire coat hanger, and we were playing sort of hook a duck with knickers at the side of the pool, which was brilliant. Yeah, one that you could never really forget because it's
absolutely. I'm just wondering what the conversations were like that evening in the hotel.
Thank goodness they could all speak Spanish. We didn't really understand,
Right.
So we were all right.
Was that typical of you now?
Yeah, probably. yeah. To be fair, she's an eventful kind of person.
Yeah. Still alive or?
Yeah, no. She's still with us.
Oh, right. Yeah. Still creating stories then?
Oh, yeah.
You sound as if you've got another one. Let's come on to that.
I've got many.
Okay, we'll go from 11 to 20. stories in your teenage years and the lessons that you've learned from them.
Right, okay. So this is another kind of funny one. So I went on holiday when I was, I'm gonna say 17-ish. I
Yes.
definitely wasn't 18. And as a result of a slightly drunken night out, I ended
Whoops.
up in a tattoo parlor. As you do, being slightly reckless, and it's kind of out of character for me. And ended up with a very small, which is I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
but very odd looking naked fairy on my back, which is
Right.
still there to this day. And being quite naive, thought that it wouldn't hurt as well. And thinking back, this probably wasn't a very good tattoo artist, because
Right.
I was on a chair with wheels on it. So as soon as they came out with the needle, and I went, ow, the chair
Yeah.
moved. So my naked fairy is a naked fairy with a club foot.
There you go. It's unique.
Yeah, it's
Unique.
definitely unique, and it's definitely a lesson learnt.
And I guess the next question is, when you woke up the next morning, did somebody describe that fairy to you, or?
I mean, there was definitely an awkward check in the mirror, and oh my god, it's like, what even happened?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was quite an odd one.
And so, I mean, those two stories involve travel. Is that something that you've done a
Do you know
lot
what?
of?
Not massively. So
No.
more recently, I've got a boxer dog who's got
Right.
arthritis, and he's a
Right.
little bit unpredictable at times. He's a bit of a brute, put it that
Right.
way. He's a big dog,
Yeah.
and not everyone can handle him on his walks, because
Right.
despite being arthritic, he loves a good chase of
Yes.
someone on a bike or a cat.
Right.
So we've, rather than lumbering anyone with him, we've
Yeah.
done UK destinations, which is lovely, and I'm all for loving what we've got on the doorstep. I'm quite a nature
Yes.
type girl, so
Yes.
yeah.
So,
But,
what would be your nearest type of walk? Fields or forests or?
well, we've got a nature reserve right across from us, so it's a bit of a mixture
Really?
of everything. So it's yeah, got nice open fields, sort of
Yeah.
meadow areas and
Yeah.
ponds and little wooded areas as well. So yeah, it's
Great.
nice to explore.
So, during that nature walk, are there specific areas for animals or ponds for birds, things like that?
Oh yeah, all sorts. Um, I mean, it's my partner's more into the photography, so we likes to
Oh,
get out there and see different things and look at the birds and all sorts.
yeah.
But I think it depends on what time you go as well. But there's often rabbits, and there'll be
Yeah.
foxes and things as well.
Right. Right. So we haven't moved lions, tigers, rhinoceros in there yet.
Not quite.
And whereabouts would you, on the map, Manchester, Preston, Blackpool, whereabouts would you be Cheshire would you be situated? Nearest town?
Well, actually, technically, I'm in Merseyside now, so
Right.
I was in Warrington, and now
Yeah,
in Newton Willows. I'm kind of between at the minute.
right. And I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah. And we go on. And in your teenage years, what were you like in terms of education? Did you do college, university, or did you go straight to work? Or
No, I did college and uni. Not that I was very studious, because I
no,
did creative things. So I would not be one for sitting writing an essay, put it that way. It
no,
was more projects and paintings, and then in uni it was quite a broad degree, so it's design and art direction. So I did a bit of advertising, a bit of
yes.
marketing, a bit of all sorts.
So were you out with the cine camera and things like that,
Not
creating?
not massively. A lot of it's done through the computer, isn't it?
Right,
But I got
right.
to do stuff like typesetting. So the old
Yes, yeah,
letterpress, it's called, where
yeah,
you get the old chunky letters that they used to make the old posters
yeah.
with. So that was a really interesting one. That was like a few days workshop. So there was definitely a lot of varied
What
stuff.
Did that come in useful for anything, or was it just interest?
It was just interest, really. I don't have access to them these days,
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
I was
But
going
yeah,
to say it's yeah. We'd probably look at our spelling a lot more if we did it that way, wouldn't we?
oh yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And doing it backwards because you have to print it backwards. So you have to set all
Really?
the letters up backwards, and then they roll the ink over, and then you
Of
press the
course.
paper on.
No,
And
I'd never thought of that.
yeah,
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, I often look back at what people were doing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. And,
hmm.
we talk about the sort of spirit and entrepreneurial spirit now. But when you look back at the work, maybe that your grandma were doing it or your great grandma, think
Hmm.
about life back in them days, sort of puts things in perspective a little bit for now.
Yeah, definitely. It's more innovative when you first
Yeah.
come to it. Now a lot of it's, I think, development.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of innovation, but to
Yeah.
whoever thought of it first must have been
That's
interesting.
I often think about that, the first person too. So I
Yeah,
take it, Jenny, that we're not
Kate.
we're not going much past 30, are we?
A little bit.
A little bit. So
A
we'll
little
take
bit.
21 to 30.
21 to 30.
And
What have I done recently? Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna darken the tone a little bit. But
yeah,
so I
no
was
problem.
married previously.
Yes.
And I mean, if we're talking about lessons, this is probably the biggest one. I was in a relationship which wasn't the nicest. There was a
Right.
big emphasis on control.
Yes.
Um, and I definitely wasn't free in that environment to make choices and decide. Well, I didn't feel like I was free.
No.
I didn't within myself. I didn't see that as there was definitely an element of control and an
Right.
element of pressure squashing
Yes.
in. Yeah, so I walked away from that, which was a big thing in my life. I struggled with
Absolutely.
anxiety for a while, but I definitely am a completely different person to what I was within that time. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely done
Do
me
you
good.
think that if you take yourself back to that time then, do you think you'd be doing what you're doing now? Would
Not a
you have been
chance.
allowed to?
No, no. I mean, allowed is a funny one because it's possibly, but it would definitely be micromanaged and a lot of it was that the confidence had been taken away, and
Yes.
when someone tells you something enough times, you start to believe it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have had the confidence to do what I'm doing now
Right.
at all, I don't think. I think I'd have been in a completely different environment.
Uh-huh. So going through that has in a way has brought you to where you are now. And you
Yeah,
had the guts to walk away, which a lot of people don't, do they?
no, absolutely not. And it's really sad because a lot of people are thinking it probably every second, every minute of the time that they're in that situation.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes a dream being free,
Right.
which
Interesting.
is
Yeah.
crazy. And a lot of people feel like they have to stay. They've got kids or
Yeah.
they feel like it's their responsibility to stay. People
Yes.
try and fix other people when
Yeah.
people can change, but there's not a lot,
No. No.
a lot past a certain personality that you can get.
That's right. That's right. And what were you working on? What were you working in during that time? What were you doing?
um I actually I wrote a novel
Right.
within that time, which is weird, and it was a bit of a fantasy novel. But it's something I've not done anything with it since.
Right.
But I suppose it was my way of mentally escaping.
Yeah.
So that's something that I don't massively shout about. It's somewhere out there on Amazon.
Right.
Um, but the way I describe it is if Peter Kay wrote 50 Shades of Grey. It's very northern and very
Right.
gritty and quite funny. So if
Yeah.
you think of 50 Shades of Grey, but in real life where people fall over or do something ridiculously stupid, you know, it's that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. Sounds a little bit more like where it was the films where the woman was trying to get married all the time, and
Bridget Jones.
Bridget Jones, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
But you say when you say Amazon, so is it a book?
It's an ebook.
An
Yeah,
e
I never actually made it into a proper printable
No.
book. Yeah, it's out there.
If you went back to it now, how would you edit it?
Oh, do you know what? I haven't got a clue. And that's
No.
probably why I've not done.
Right.
Because the writing it for me came a lot easier than the editing did.
Yes.
Like I said, I'm not one for sitting writing an essay, but when the thoughts
Yeah.
are there, it becomes more of a creative process.
Right.
But when you start talking about grammar and spelling, I'm like, there. It just goes. It just goes.
Yeah. Definitely a candidate for Grammarly.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll come to the final years, Kate. 32. However, you don't have to tell us. 32.
Almost 34.
35. Thank you. Those 4 years, how have they shaped who you are now?
Well, I had a baby, so
Of course.
hugely. So anyone knows who's had a kid, it just changes you, doesn't it? It changes your outlook on life. It changes
Yeah.
your priorities.
Yeah.
Cute little one there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes you see everything in a completely different perspective. Things you thought matter
Right.
don't anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, he's amazing. I'd do anything for him.
Really, and hopefully, you know, and I've got 3 daughters, 2 in their 20s, 2 in their 30s, 1 in their 20s, and they're still my daughters. They're still, you
Yeah, they're still
worry,
your babies.
you
They're just
worry
big.
about them.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, recently I worried about my middle daughter, and she got really upset because I worried about her.
Oh.
Leave me alone. I can look after myself now. I'm not a baby. But you are to me. So you've got that coming. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, little boys will look after their moms all the time, won't they?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So, I mean, is he boisterous? Is he crawling or
Oh, he's walking and talking.
walking?
He's a live wire.
Right.
Yeah, he's a handful. He's definitely the sort of rough and tumble boy that you'd
Yeah.
expect. You
Yeah.
know, in the morning he'll jump in bed with us. You'll end up with a foot in your face, or
Right.
you know, he'll be climbing on your head and
Yeah.
craziness.
So, have you had to change the room around at all, or take things down, or?
Apart from, I sort of feel like I'm in a giant. I always call it a baby cage, and I know it's not a baby cage. That sounds really cruel.
No.
Playpen. There you
Right.
go.
Yeah.
I call
Yeah.
it the cage. How bad is that? I'm not a terrible parent, I promise.
No, of course, don't sound like it. But do you mean you've got bricks all over the floor and cars and you know, where that he's thrown stuff out of the
Oh, cars and
Yeah.
tractors everywhere.
Right. Yeah. That's good. You just went a little bit there, but we'll do that. So that's the final 4 years, Kate. You are where you are now. Graphic design, photography, even you say. Are you taking
And
pictures?
that's not me. So my partner does the photography.
But do you do anything with them online, or is there anywhere where people can see them?
I can edit photography, and I can. So part of what I did in my previous job was things like brochure design and layouts.
Right. Yeah.
Where I'm taking photos and text, and I'm basically turning stuff from either an Excel file, a Word doc,
Yes.
bank of images into a browsable brochure or a
Right.
flyer, something with a purpose.
Yes. And so people who are listening to this, if they wanted something like that, is that someone you would want to talk to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And who would be your ideal client?
So for me, I say anyone who's at that stage where they want to increase visibility,
Yeah,
they want to maybe step up from doing the DIY design on Canva to having something completely unique,
right.
whether that's branding or marketing materials or packaging.
Yes,
Um, Anyone who's really at that stage where they want to show the value in a visual way,
yes,
rather than relying on sort of stock images and stock
right.
templates and things like that.
Great. And where can people find you, Kate?
They can find me across social media,
Yes,
and that's Fimbo Designs. So that's FINBO Designs. I think it's an underscore Fimbo underscore designs on social media,
yes.
or it's www.fimbodesigns.co.uk.
Brilliant. You on LinkedIn?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn
Yes.
as well.
LinkedIn under your name or Fimbo.
Yeah, just under my name.
Lovely. So what I'll do, Kate, afterwards, I will put all of this into the chat and into the comments box, and hopefully the people out there will try and get to know Kate Hendry. It's been lovely talking to you. Take care. Have a great week.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you.